I have officially quit caffeine. No, the point of this video isn't to try to persuade you to stop taking caffeine or to talk anything bad about caffeine. But I'm here to talk about my experiences and give you some insight. Maybe you've been on the fence with quitting caffeine. Maybe this resonates with you. As of today, as I'm filming this video, today is March 14th. I'm about 4 weeks off of taking caffeine on a regular basis. This journey with caffeine started back in 2020. Prior to 2020, I drank coffee here and there, but I never really felt the effects of it. Like my parents would make coffee sometimes. Sometimes I would get me my occasional Starbucks, but I never really felt the effects of it. But I remember one day back in 2020, this was the midst of the craziness that was going on. At the time, I was a junior in college, and during the midst of the pandemic, like I didn't do no work, especially with everything being on Zoom. Like I got really lazy and I procrastinated a ton. And I was just left with a bunch of work to do at the end of the semester. At the time, I had a roommate that drank coffee on the regular. And one day I thought, what's the worst that can happen if I drink this cup of coffee? So went ahead and drank that cup of coffee, and I literally kid you not, I felt like I was on Adderall that day. I remember being in front of my computer screen for hours. I was just locked in, focused, and that was the most productive I've ever felt in my life. And ever since that day, I linked productivity to caffeine. Every single time I had work to do, or every single time I wanted to be productive, yo, let's get some caffeine in us. Typically, my intake will look like 1 to 2 cups of coffee first thing in the morning. And then if I have a really hard workout to do, maybe I'll take some pre-workouts or even have an energy drink. Or occasionally when I have a lot of work to do later in the day, sometimes I'll drink an extra cup of coffee. Over the course of the last 4 years, there were definitely times where I did push the caffeine intake a little bit. Like I remember buying coffee off of Amazon called Biohazard. Like that thing has a ridiculous amount of caffeine. I don't recommend it. But yo, Dan, you linked productivity to caffeine. Like, why'd you stop? I always knew that I had an addictive personality, and to a certain level, like I knew that I was pushing it in terms of the caffeine intake I was taking. But during my prep for my first bodybuilding show that I did last October, man, let me tell you, I relied on caffeine to even function properly. Being in an extreme calorie deficit for 6 months straight, my body just didn't function properly. The caffeine gave me energy, it suppressed my appetite, it helped me feel something, and it helped me get through my days. But coming out of the bodybuilding show, it really hit me. With my body being that sensitized to caffeine, I didn't really feel the effects anymore. And I noticed one thing. Not only did I link productivity to caffeine, but I realized a trend. Every single time I felt anxious, I would drown myself in caffeine. Not only that, but coming out of the bodybuilding prep where I literally couldn't fall asleep, I remember vividly, this was November, December time of 2023, like 1 to 2 months after my bodybuilding show. Not only did I have extremely low energy, my caffeine intake was through the roof, even though I didn't feel anything. My anxiety was sky high, and I just couldn't fall asleep no matter how tired I was. And from that moment on, I knew I needed to make a change. Over the course of the last 4 weeks, the biggest change and the biggest difference that I feel, not only have I been sleeping like a baby, my energy levels and my mood is definitely a lot more balanced, but this has been the most productive I've been in a really, really long time without caffeine. The first 1 to 2 weeks were extremely difficult because I just wasn't used to it, and it was almost like a mental battle. But I would definitely say over the last 2 weeks, this is when I really noticed the difference in terms of my energy, my sleep, and my productivity. And most importantly, my anxiety. I want to share 3 valuable lessons that I learned ever since I quit caffeine. First one being, don't underestimate your mental strength. I used to wake up extremely anxious, thinking about all the different things I had to do for the day and all the responsibilities on my plate. It's like if I had a big project to do where I had to glue myself in front of my computer, let's drink a ton of caffeine to get us through this. But let me tell you, this has been the most productive I've ever been in my life without any caffeine whatsoever. I've been waking up earlier, waking up energized and excited, and my creative juices are just going crazy rather than numbing my anxiety with the caffeine. Secondly, you can change anything that you want. I'm a big believer that change is for everyone. Now, we can argue that some people have it worse than others, but life is like a game of poker. You can be dealt with the best hand, but that doesn't mean that you automatically win, and vice versa. Just because you were dealt with a bad hand does not necessarily mean that you automatically lose, because this game isn't about the cards you were dealt, but how you strategically play them. Whatever habit it is that doesn't serve you anymore, or deep down there's that thought or the idea that, you maybe shouldn't do this anymore. You can take that leap of faith in you. You can make that change, but it all starts with a decision. And lastly, the third lesson I learned is get to the root of the problem. At first, I thought that the caffeine was gonna help my productivity. But as time went on, I realized that I was using caffeine to numb my anxiety and to give me a boost of energy. But that caffeine ain't gonna fix my anxiety or my energy levels. In fact, it was making it even worse. Get to the root of the problem. For me, with my anxiety, it was from a lot of irrational thoughts and beliefs that kept me overthinking in my own tracks and kept me stuck feeling anxiety all day, every single day. And in terms of my energy levels, not only was I getting shit sleep, but I wasn't actually fueling my body with the proper fuel that it needs. Not just calories, but quality of my foods. But ever since we attacked the root of the problem, which was being calm, settled, and collected with my own thoughts and myself, and maximizing my energy levels through my food and my recovery, my life has changed drastically over the course of the last 4 weeks. Again, the point of this video isn't to try to persuade you to stop taking caffeine, and I'm not even saying that I'm gonna quit caffeine for the rest of my life, but hopefully this gives you some insight in terms of my experiences with caffeine, and to help you bring better awareness to the decisions in your life. Let me know in the comments below if this resonated with you, or what your thoughts are on caffeine.